kéré o, wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa. Wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa, àwọn ọmọdé wọ̀nyí kéré sí nọ́mbà wa.
Wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa. Wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa.
Not because I suffer fast, not because I pray and fast. No be your show, no be jazz. I'm watching. Daily Osinachi, I'm no qua Osinachi. One man Osinachi, I'm watching. Daily Osinachi, mama Osinachi.
Ani wọ́n kéré o, wọ́n kéré o, wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa. Wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa, àwọn ọmọdé wọ̀nyí kéré sí nọ́mbà wa.
Wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa. Wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa.
Not because I suffer fast, not because I pray and fast. No be your show, no be jazz. I'm watching. Daily Osinachi, I'm no qua Osinachi. One man Osinachi, I'm watching. Daily Osinachi, mama Osinachi.
Ani wọ́n kéré o, wọ́n kéré o, wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa. Wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa, àwọn ọmọdé wọ̀nyí kéré sí nọ́mbà wa.
Wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa. Wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa.
Not because I suffer fast, not because I pray and fast. No be your show, no be jazz. I'm watching. Daily Osinachi, I'm no qua Osinachi. One man Osinachi, I'm watching. Daily Osinachi, mama Osinachi. Not because I suffer fast, not because I pray and fast. No be your show, no be jazz. I'm watching. Daily Osinachi, I'm no qua Osinachi. One man Osinachi, I'm watching. Daily Osinachi, mama Osinachi.
Lolu
kéré sí nọ́mbà wa. Wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa. Àwọn ọmọdé wọ̀nyí kéré sí nọ́mbà wa.
A ní wọ́n kéré o, wọ́n kéré o, wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa. Wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa, àwọn ọmọdé wọ̀nyí kéré sí nọ́mbà wa.
Wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa. Wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa.
Not because I suffer fast, not because I pray and fast. No be your show, no be jazz. I'm watching. Daily Osinachi, I'm no qua Osinachi. One lemon, Osinachi, I'm watching. Daily Osinachi, mama, Osinachi.
Hello?
Hi there.
Hi everyone.
Hello. I saw my name on your okay, it changed. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what I don't know what happened. So I guess we're still waiting for some people. Yeah, I think we're waiting for still one more speaker and also, I guess, some audience. So. Okay, I'm getting some instructions here to start. So, okay, I'm trying to read the chat here. Okay, I think we'll just start. So, welcome to this session of the pre-conference of the LSA. The name of this panel is Doing Research in Nigeria, Reflections on Archival Research and Fieldwork. And we've gathered here a very exciting group of panelists that are going to be talking to us about their research. And I guess the point of the conference is for people, it's a roundtable, so it's less, kind of formal presentations and more people sharing their experiences, thoughts, sort of reflections on how they conduct research in Nigeria. So how the Nigeria as a research landscape. And I guess different people in the panel are coming from a lot of different directions. And we're going to hear from each one. Everyone will get 10 minutes and talk to us about their research, about their specific area of specialization, about the methodologies they use. And hopefully through this, we'll be able to talk about some new directions in research and relating to Nigeria. So we have with us, I see we have 4 panelists with us. We're missing Abosede Olumumi Babatunde. So I think that we will start with, sorry. Okay, so why don't we start with Flourish Falorami Olorunibe. Is that okay, Flourish? Is that okay if you go first?
Yeah, it's fine. I'm good.
Okay, so I'll just a few words about our speaker before she begins. Flourish Falorumbe is a doctoral student in the Department of History at Rhodes University in South Africa, and she's researching the social history of midwifery practices in colonial Ibadan, Nigeria, between 1890s to 1960. Her research interrogates issues around medical pluralism and epistemic contestations between missionary doctors and traditional birth attendants, TBA, and the trajectory of maternal health services in colonial locales. She's the winner of the African Multiple Cluster of Excellence Scholarship to complete her doctoral research at the Rhodes University of African Studies Center, and she received a Master's of Arts degree in History from the University of Ibadan and a Bachelor in Arts degree in History and International Studies from Adekunle Ajasin University. She's a junior research fellow at the Institut Français de Recherche in Africa, IFRA, Nigeria, and a member of the LSA. So please. We'll give each speaker about 10 minutes to present.
Thank you, Elaine. Good evening, everyone. I actually thought the panel is more of a question and answer kind of format, that it's going to take a format of question and answer. So I practically don't know where to start from presently. So okay, probably we go that way, or I don't know.
So that's great. Maybe what we will. I think I was thinking that everyone would do first is just kind of present first. We'll just do one round of everyone presenting, basically on your own field work, telling us about the kind of field work you do, the methodologies you use, how you view Nigeria as a very specific research context. So, kind of in keeping with just everyone sort of beginning with just a 10-minute, up to 10 minutes sort of overview in terms of your experiences as a researcher conducting research in Nigeria. And if you think that there's something specific about that, about the research context, or what, the kind of challenges or strategies or sort of eureka moments that you've had during field work, and what kind of archives you're using, what kind of sources you're accessing, and just maybe some of the challenges and get some of the benefits, and just as a way of opening up the discussion. And then afterwards, we'll be able to obviously ask questions and have everyone sort of chip in their kind of contributions based on the questions.
I think I should start this way. Probably I should just talk about my experiences doing research in Nigeria. I am in the field of history. We basically do archival researches, and we do oral research. Doing research in Nigeria has been mixed. It's not all rosy and it's not all bad. First, I would want to say the primary source of getting my document, my research document is going to the archives. And basically going to the archives is either you get to see what you want in doing your research. So the experience so far has not really been too bad, because what we do when we go to the archives is basically you make naturally want to go to get. After you then would know the kind of materials you are aiming for at the archives. So doing that, going to the archives, you would pretty much have a very fair experience, because most times the things you need at the archives, you get them because you are already prepared to what you are expecting to see at the archives. And on most occasions, you might not really have a good day when it comes to getting the exact you need. So the experiences are both are mixed. Like I earlier said, it's either you get what you want to get what you really need at the archives. And in the aspect of oral history, which is a form of reconstructing history through the voices of people who had experience in a particular period. You know, when you go to the field and you meet these people, you most times you get disappointed with what the results you are getting from them, because what you are expecting, you probably won't, get it from the sources you think they actually have the knowledge of what you are actually looking for. This shapes the output you as in my experience as a. Hello?
Hi. Hi. I think your connection is just really bad, so it's a little hard to. I'm not really sure. Yeah, I think what we'll do, Flourish. I think that what we're going to try and do is we're going to go to another speaker, and maybe you can improve the connection. It's just super hard to understand. We're missing a lot of what you're saying, so it's a little bit hard. So I think we will just go to the next speaker, and then we'll come back to you. If maybe you can turn on and off or reconnect, that might help. So in the meanwhile, we'll welcome Absedi Omumi Babatunde to the panel, and let's maybe turn to the next speaker. Is it Deng Zhenguan? Did I pronounce it properly?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, Deng Zhouyan. I usually go by Deng.
Deng. Okay, great. So Deng is a PhD candidate in the Department of Religion at the University of Florida, and he received both a BA and an MA in history from Peking University. And he's currently in Nigeria working on the history of the Ahmadiyya in Nigeria.
Yes, thank you for the introduction, Lynn. And I'm very honored to be here to talk about my research experience in Nigeria. Currently, I'm still in the field, and I'm kind of wrapping up my final field work and will be leaving Nigeria next month. My research is on the history of Ahmadiyya in Nigeria, especially the Ahmadiyya Muslim Jama'ah. And my focus is on its urban space, how it's constructed, contested, and lived there. A lot of urban spaces like mosques, headquarters, as well as schools, hospitals, more recently estates. So I would say my research is like a combination of historical and a little bit anthropological, though I'm in a religion department at this moment. Yeah, but my interest in always been history. So my research method includes a lot of archival research and as well as oral interview. And maybe I can talk a little bit about my archival research experience in Nigeria in general. So I think I first went to University of the National Archives in Ibadan. I think everyone, especially working on southwestern Nigeria, would be familiar with that institute. It's very it has a lot of archives there, and yeah, I think I don't know if I should go if I should go into too much detail of this, because I assume a lot of them are quite familiar with it. But I think there are some bad times and some good times. I think generally, I mean, in the archives, I can meet a lot of interesting colleagues and professors, and we can learn from each other. That's really wonderful. And the staff are very friendly, and they are very helpful, and they are very knowledgeable of the archive situation here in Nigeria. But there, of course, there are the other side of the story. I think one thing is the COVID, and the COVID. Okay, the COVID situation is not. At least when I was in Ibadan last year, it still has some effect on the archival research in Nigeria, especially because of the COVID restriction. The staff are not all the staff are back to work, so it's not in full operation. So they didn't have enough staff member to put the archives back to the shelves. So once you requested an archive, an item, and read it and return it back to the staff, and they just put it on the ground or somewhere. So if you want to request it again, probably it will be very hard for them to find it again. So I think my advice is that take your time and do not have the idea to go back to the archive and look at it again. So I have been away by internet. And another thing I forgot that the newspaper collection in the National Archives, they have a huge newspaper collections in the archive, but sometimes I find that these newspapers are not in the best situation. I would say some papers are just loose, and some papers are not complete. So we need to be very careful when.
We were doing so well. I think we've lost Deng. Okay, so I think that we'll go on because Deng is stuck. So I think we're going to go on to David Cassiano. Did I pronounce your name properly?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so Dave Cassiano is a research fellow with the LuxCore project and an adjunct professor of social anthropology at the University of Bologna. He's currently the chair of the European Network on Anthropology of Crime and Criminalization. He did his MA fieldwork in Ibadan and his PhD fieldwork in Port Harcourt, and he's currently in Lagos.
Thank you so much, Lynn. I thought of that as more of a generic intervention about methodology, but I guess I'll try to change it a little bit while going on. So, social and cultural anthropologists use ethnographic methodology to understand authors' subjective meanings in relation to social and cultural processes, and in some cases to elicit the implication that might escape to the author themselves. For example, because they take it for granted, which is why comparison is so important. As a foreign social anthropologist doing research in Nigeria, the first things that one has to consider in methodology is clearly positionality. Most of the experts in Nigeria do, okay, it's work. Deng is back. Anyway.
That's okay. That's okay. You can just go. We're gonna go back.
Okay. So as a foreign social anthropologist doing research in Nigeria, obviously the first things that you have to consider is positionality. I mean, most of the expats in Nigeria, they are here for doing business, so they are treated with very specific expectation, which sometimes can result unpleasant. Researchers obviously do not live by magic, but still they are interested in learning and studying, which is something that is generally not a priority for so many people. So researchers in Nigeria must be aware of how their identity is perceived and observe not only how others react to it, but also how they react to other expectations and even emotions. On a more practical note, I can say that, I mean, anthropologists usually do fieldworks that last 6 months or even 1 year. At home, because there are many scholars that started to do research in their own countries, but also in other nations like me. This is clearly possible in Nigeria, but somehow it can be a little bit more challenging for foreigners, as researchers are usually coming to Nigeria with a business visa. I mean, there is not really a category for research visa in Nigeria. And a business visa can only last 3 months. Multiple entry visas are most impossible to get. So the key for getting over this and many other little practical issues while doing fieldwork is just building a network of contacts. It goes without saying that, as we are doing now, exchanging knowledge with Nigerian scholars on the ground is essential and can lead us to interesting new direction while conducting our fieldwork. And in addition, expanding these networks can also help Nigerian scholars conducting their research in Europe and also about Europe. I'm somehow proud to say that one of the very first students that I supervised was a Nigerian anthropologist doing research in Bologna about Bologna in Italy. So when it comes, also we have to talk about this, about security on the fieldwork. It is somehow embarrassing how other nations sometimes treat Nigeria like a red zone, even within broad research grand schemes. Scholars specializing in Nigeria have a duty to explain to the world that the Nigerian context is much more interesting and complex than this. Depending on what country you are from, you will have to deal with risk assessment protocols at once. Likely for me in Italy, there is not too much of this, but also you are not comparing to England at least, as far as I know. But also in Nigeria, on a practical level, what is important is again relying on a network of local and diversified contacts, even when researching potentially dangerous topics, which I did, for example, when I was in South Africa doing research about crime and private security. The biggest key to personal security is not guns or bulletproof vests, but people. Anthropologists must learn how to move within society, how to interact with people, and how to reach their research goal in a safe manner. Obviously, the success of such goals is related to how they are shared with the public, and you should explain the meaning of your research to the people. When dealing with human subjects, it is also essential to protect their wealth, health, and privacy. People should be rewarded for their hard work, but they should also be protected. Despite similarities, social and cultural anthropology is not journalism, and personal identities are rarely what really matters. As scholars, we are not interested in broad processes. We are interested in broad processes made by real people, and we have to anonymize our reports. And this for ethical reasons, and not just because the law says so, or because our university tells us to do that. I'm also an anthropologist coming from a department in which anthropology is very close to the historical sciences. So for me, besides doing interviews or observation, access to archival materials or finding old books in small and local libraries is key to any fieldwork. Archival research as part of an anthropological project is essential not just to avoid exoticizing phenomena that really are not that new, but to analyze them in a longitudinal dynamic way. And it is what really separates anthropology today from the old functionalistic approaches in social sciences and the wrong ethnographic present of the 40s. Another relatively recent theoretical issue related to methodology in anthropology is that, at least in Europe, we do not see society as a natural phenomena to observe objectively. Our research project obviously must still include a well-structured methodology, But social and cultural anthropology went through a postmodern revolution in the 80s, meaning that today we understand that the perfect positivistic understanding of human society and culture is not just impossible, but ontologically wrong. It is possible that we not even understand what our life partners mean when they are talking to us. And such continuous misunderstandings might actually be what keeps society working as well as our own. So to present anthropological methodology as a kind of art science is more of a strategy than a truth. And we actually have to study this kind of strategies because we can learn from that how an academic field is positioned within a society, how it is perceived, and how it needs to be perceived by state and politics in order to get funds and recognition. There is no question that all knowledge should be viewed as essential on its own, but that is not the case in many places, and not just in Nigeria, but also in my own country. It is a collective task to expand the public space and recognition for humanistic discipline like anthropology, and without turning them in something like biology or engineering within the methodology or theory. And while talking about ethnographic methodology, I should also mention the role of research assistants and interpreters. While it would be nice that as anthropologists, we master many languages, other scholars like Malinowski had more than 1 year only to master a single local language. And this is a rare opportunity for most anthropologists today. Nigeria has hundreds of different languages. I think it is more of a myth that an anthropologist should learn a local language. And as linguistic scholars know, it is hard to master a language after a lifetime of studies. So I imagine after 1 year. I'm not saying that you should not understand local terms, but if you are not a Nigerian anthropologist doing research in Nigeria, you will need help. At the same time, most people speak English in Nigeria today, as we all know here, and learning Pidgin is the bare minimum to do, even if it's a dynamic language. It might be hard to find an interpreter if your fieldwork involves researching in remote villages, and you still will need a grammar book to understand, at least let on, how the translation was made. It is equally important to master different ways of transcribing translations so that you can check the whole process. All of this comes at a cost, which you have to consider why other people are helping you. It is also useful to train more than just hire research assistant, because they might help you, for example, by being gatekeepers. Developing a friendly yet professional relationship with them can ensure that you remain safe and why not happy during your fieldwork. You should always remember that you are not just observing others, but others are also observing you during your fieldwork. If you have assistants from your research context, they can help you understand the local power hierarchies, formalities, and informal rules, but you will have to understand what their social role in that context is and how that reflects on you. By training a research assistant, you can also contribute back to your research context, which means that you can not only reward somebody like a student, but also learn a few things from them while teaching others. So I would like to conclude by saying that Nigeria, for me, is the largest and most interesting nation in Africa. And the data terms obviously is complex and challenging. In Nigeria, no scholars will be able to find the best and the worst in any given topic. In my previous research experiences, I studied religion, medicine, politics, armed conflict, and corruption currently. And then thinking about conducting research in information and communication technology, all of this in Nigeria. Nowadays, anthropology is not just about people, society, and culture. It is also about non-human objects, animals, and environment. And all of these topics can be explored in Nigeria with its history, biodiversity, and technology. I believe that Nigeria offers a unique perspective of the entire African continent. This diversity will allow conducting fieldwork on contemporary subjects that cannot be explored anywhere else. Nigeria is a country rich in people, and social anthropologists are likely to be able to share a part of their story. In our research, we do more than just apply a methodology or a theory. We experience human life, and this is well worth all the challenges we may face. So I'm willing to reply for any specific question you might have, and well, thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you very much, David. You brought up a lot of topics there. I think there's a lot we can pull apart and talk about, and we'll return to a lot of the themes that you raised when we get into more of a discussion with more questions. So let's have just a general. We'll continue with the general sort of introductions to people's work and their approach to research. Our next speaker is Lasisi Olenwaju. From the College of William and Mary. He is a sixth-year doctoral candidate in anthropology department at the College of William and Mary. He's a fellow at the Center of Advanced Spatial Technologies at the University of Arkansas, and a dissertation completion fellow at the American Council of Learned Societies. Prior to receiving the ACLS, he was a research fellow at Dumbarton Oaks, Harvard University. Olenwaju has been conducting archaeological research in Nigeria since 2010. His research at Ijeba Ode has been funded by the Wenner Gren Foundation, National Endowment for Humanities, Washington Explorers, and the U.S. Ambassadors Fund for Cultural Preservation. So Lasisi, please, thank you.
Thank you very much for that introduction. I'm trying to share my screen, so I would like the host to give me access to that. While we are working on that, I would like to read a few things I've written here about doing archaeology in Nigeria. So I will start by saying this. What makes a fieldwork successful is not what you think you know. If it is, you will not need a fieldwork anyway. But what makes a fieldwork successful is the combination of what you know, your skills, and what others know and their skills. In planning fieldwork in Nigeria, your main goal should be to collect as much information as you can collect from the field. So every archaeologist and other material culture scholars all have one thing in common. It is to answer the question of what happened, where, when, how, and why did it happen? Now, to answer these questions, there must be a well-structured fieldwork planning that includes a pre-fieldwork plan, the fieldwork itself, and then the post-fieldwork plan. Now, all of these stages require a very close contact with the locals. Now, I'll share my screen. Oh, I'm still unable to share my screen. Yeah,
I'm actually not the host, so I'm not able to give anybody the ability to share screens, I think.
Yeah, I am getting a message from LSA saying I should try to share my screen now. I'm still unable to do that. Yeah, I'm unable to do that. Yeah, unfortunately, because the bulk of what I want to say is in the screen. Okay, well, I can, maybe while I keep trying that for us, I would just keep talking, maybe randomly. So the first thing you want to do, for me personally, I planned my fieldwork about 6 months before the work itself, or more than fieldwork sometimes. And the most important thing we have to know in the 3 stages I've highlighted, the pre-fieldwork, the fieldwork, and the post-fieldwork, is our ability to carry the locals along. So, for example, you say you want to go do fieldwork for a month or 2 months. Where are you going to stay? You need accommodation. You need research assistants. Now, who are those who will show you around this new community? I'm not just talking to foreign Africanist archaeologists. Even Nigerians who are Africanist archaeologists working in Nigeria still need that collaboration with the people in the community. So you have to have this plan ahead in the pre-fieldwork planning time. So what I do is I have to like call people around. Sometimes I call my mentees at the University of Ibadan to go to my fieldwork site to see some other chiefs on my behalf, and I speak with them over the phone, tell them when I'm coming. And one of the interesting things about doing archaeology in Nigeria is that you'll be surprised how people are willing to know about what we do. In fact, I had a particular fieldwork in 2018. I was given accommodation for free for a month, just because the locals are so excited about what we are trying to do. So sometimes we think, oh, we have to separate the locals from the owners of our work, but that's not it. They have to be involved in the pre-fieldwork, in the fieldwork and the post-fieldwork, which I'm going to get into in a few minutes. Yeah, I'm still unable to share. It's okay. So before you leave for the field, you need to get a permit to carry out excavation, and the body that gives the permit is the Commission for Museum and Monument, NCMM, the National Nigerian Commission for Museum and Monument. And this permit is very easy to get. But one of the things I do is that I just speak with my senior colleagues at the University of Ibadan. Yeah, there's a real issue. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't share my screen. Yeah, so one of the ways to get the permit is just walk up to scholars in Nigerian universities who have easy access to the NCMM, and they can get it for you within the twinkle of an eye. In less than a week, they can help you to make a call, and then you get the permit. Another way is if you have colleagues working in the same area as you. For example, I wrote this down, but if you are working in, let's say, Ikeja and its environs, which is, let's say, it's about 160 miles in circumference, and you have another colleague who wants to do an archaeological excavation in that same area, what you can do is you can have that person use your permit, but write another letter saying that I'm giving this other scholar the permission to use my permit because it's part of the broader research area. And that's for if you are collaborating in one way or the other. So that way you don't need to get another permit to do the work. On arrival in Nigeria, you would definitely need the locals. First of all, you want to carry out your pilot studies, or you want to do a survey, a pedestrian survey. How do you do survey of the place you don't know? So for you to do a survey of the place you don't know, you need the people who already know the place. Now, you also have to pay attention to what they are saying about these places, which is not, I'm not just going to this community with this idea that, oh, this is the palace, this is the market, oh, I'm going to excavate this place. Sometimes, where you are going to excavate, you are going to get that information from the people showing you around. So I excavated the ancient palace complex in Ijebu Kingdom, and that's the first systematic excavation at the capital city, Ijebu, in 2020. And the decision to excavate this palace was brought about by the information I got from the indigenes of Ijebu Kingdom. So they call the name of this palace. So it's been abandoned since the late 19th century. So it's now a public space. Now, they call the name of this place Itoru Palace. And the meaning of Itoru means the front yard for the practice of Oro festival or deity. So it's basically the front space of ritual. So by helping me to understand the meaning of that space, and they said it's the front space of ritual, yet it's a former palace, it helped me to realize that that space served dual functions, a ritual space and a political space. Now, how would I know without working with these people? And one of the interesting things then about, oh, finally, thank you. Okay, good. So one of the interesting things about them working with the local people is that they will be with you in the survey. You're going to have an idea of where to excavate. Now, you also need them during the excavation. So I was excavating and with my team members, and a lot of guys came with bottles and cutlass saying, "You are digging for gold. Give us our right," and it was a very difficult thing to, at the time. So what I did was that I spoke to them. I said, "Hey, look, first of all, I'm an archaeologist. What I'm trying to do is to help you to understand your past, to help you to get material cultures that will allow both of us to have a better understanding of our past." And when I said that, I asked them a question. So, do you want me to continue or not? And because I was able to help them to understand what I was doing, they were like, oh, continue, continue. See, I didn't give any of them money. Instead, what I did was to recruit some of them to do excavation with me, because in actual fact, I need more power. So, and at the end of the day, these were the people that even after the fieldwork, they kept on calling me about the site. Hey, there's erosion. What can we do? So they became part of the work. I'm going to jump. Okay, I'm going to show you a sample of the permit. Okay, this is one of the permits. This is how it looks like. This is from the National Commission for Museums and Monuments. Yeah, it's national, not Nigerian. Yeah, National Commission for Museums and Monuments. This is what the permit looks like. And then, I think, what is this? For some reason it's not going. Oh, okay. Yeah, so this is the one I was saying that just if you want to share your permit with someone who you are collaborating together, you can just have a draft like this for it, so saying that you are giving permission to use your permit. Yeah, I was talking about pedestrian survey and so an ethnography. You always need people that you know. So these are my friends. I have colleagues around here. I also have mentees, all of which I'm always calling. Hey, I need you in Nigeria. I'll be in Nigeria very soon, and I want to do this work. And because everyone is going to gain, they're going to acquire more skills. And as you can see, this man right here is now at PSU. This man right here is now at University of California. So a lot of people are doing great things. This man right here is at University of Iowa. And this one of the local persons up there showing us around. In fact, he helped us discover an ancient wall in Jebu area. So everyone here, there are people that you know. So even if you don't know anyone, you just need to have information of one person in a Nigerian university. So if you're working in the north, for example, you need to find the archaeology department in the northern area of Nigeria, maybe University of Jos or Ahmadu Bello University, or maybe museums. It's because there are very few universities that offering archaeology, but of course you can get this, it can be introduced, of course, to people working in the museum who can give you one or two persons to follow you to the site. And then from in the site, you can also recruit some indigenes to work with you. Another thing you have to do during your excavation is to bring colleagues, senior colleagues from these universities to your site, because sometimes they also know many other things theoretically, methodologically. For me, I always bring my mentors. So this is Dr. Padeji. He visited my site. This is of course Dr. Babalola. He was at my site. This is Dr. Tubosu and Professor Gufalako. They all visited my site, shared their insight on the different materials I excavated. And I needed that because, as I said in the beginning, I said, what makes your field work successful is not just about what you know. If it is about what you know, then you don't need to go to the field anyway. It is about what you know plus what others know and other people's skills. So I have heritage specialists, I have geologists, and I also have prehistoric archaeologists. I have technologists also. So you can see how I brought all of these people together so that I can learn a lot from them about my site and about my my materials. So I also brought my undergraduate advisor from the University of Ibadan to my side. So, he can also, share his thoughts and his insight with me in the work. For some reason, it's not going next. I think I have 3 minutes, right? Okay. So
yeah, maybe
the
it's like
locals,
one more minute, maybe, because
okay, so it's okay. Okay, that's okay. So in doing excavation in Nigeria, you can see so I had to also recruit the indigenous people, as I mentioned earlier, and many of them are from universities in the area. They're so passionate about the work, and they want to really know more, and you can see them doing excavations really very well, and now they really love it. And you could hear some of them saying that they want to know more about it.
Production. And at the same time, I like to thank Lagos Studies Association for the opportunity to present this very important, join this very important conversation on doing research in Nigeria. And I think I would like to contribute to what previous presenters has also said. First, for me, particularly given the fact that I carried out my field work in conflict affected setting. It posed very particular challenges because my field work takes place in very complex and sensitive area. So as a result, I have to pay very important attention to the local dynamics in the research site. And firstly, in terms of community entry, when you want to assess such communities, and I want to say in conflict affected setting, what's particular challenge because of the changing research landscape in Nigeria. And when I mean changing research landscape, there are two critical issues. The first is what I would call field site profiteers. And the second also has to do with considering research subject fatigue. What I mean by fieldwork profiteers is that this research setting, especially conflict affected setting, the underlying grievance and structural issues that provoke the conflict in the workplace have not been addressed for several decades. For example, in the Niger Delta, and there'll be many researchers going there often and often to do research. And the research subject, the local people, have the mindset that you are coming there, they have a kind of hope in you, thinking that your coming may perhaps bring out some positive changes in their situation. So as such, this tends to give them optimistic. And in the end, you come, you go. And their state of quiz remains the same. Another researcher come often and often. So at a point, they become so disillusioned and fatigued. And they say, what the essence of us? Okay, listening to you, wasting our time. What the essence of leaving our work to come to attend to you? So that's one important challenge. The second, about issues of field site profiteers, are the people having the mindset that you are coming to do research, you are funded, you have a lot of money to spend, and then they see this as an opportunity. They look for how to get part of the fund, money from you. This is another challenge. So when you want to enter community, in terms of community entry, who are the people assisting you to enter communities? You look for insiders within communities, those close to community leaders and so. But these people, what is their perception about you coming to do your field work there? So most often you find out that evolving field site setting landscape in Nigeria is characterized by those we call field site profiteers who think that you are coming there, you have to give them some money for them to help you to access communities. So you have to be mindful, you have to insist that This work is purely for research purpose, and I am not here to give money to people to do. I'm here to do research. I can provide refreshment, something feel give for my research participants. So you have to be patient to get the right people to get you to access community. This is very important. I found my situation spending a lot of time still waiting to access communities. So when you are going, you have your plan 1, you have your plan A, you have plan B, you have plan C. Because before you get to the field, you meet people who are sure, you give you assurance, they can help, they can support. But when you get to the field, the reality on ground might be different. And so for you to be careful about ethical issues, you have to pay attention and you have to have various plans that will help you to navigate these challenges. And as I also said, for me, I used to get assistance from local NGOs working in this community. But I found out that some of these NGOs do not adhere to best practices, even in their work, talk less of when they assist researchers. So you have to be mindful that also at the same time, their work, their approach differs from you as a researcher, because they don't probe deep to be able to understand keenly what are the issues. They just scratch it on the surface. So you have to pay attention and you have to insist that you have to do it the best way, the right way for you to get qualitative data. And then the issue of research subject, your positionality, the way they perceive you, the way you perceive yourself is also important, because you perceive yourself as somebody coming to do research here, and I'm here to do what is needed, and I'm here to be careful that I do not do any harm. I protect myself, I protect my subject. But how do the research subjects see you? You find out, for example, conducting field work in a male-dominated setting, paying attention as a woman, seeing you as a woman and part of the lesser beings who do not even have any kind of, who should not be given any recognition. So how do you navigate this to let them know where you are coming from, why you are coming there, and be careful, giving them the impression that you can solve their problem, even when you know the challenge is very complex and insurmountable, but through your research work. And then in some contents you see, is there some advice you can give them to help them to be able to tackle some of it? Some contracts you can give to them, some people you think they can, how they can talk to the media, something. In that way, you are also helping them. Also important, how do you ensure the validity and reliability of your research data? This is important because when you are doing qualitative research, ethnographic, you say, or you are collecting ethnographic data, you meet various research subjects. How do you validate what they are telling you? Especially sometimes when they sensitize they are too sentimental, they project it in a way that you think the problem is larger than life, whereas in reality it may not be so. So for you doing qualitative research, you have to ensure you have multiple research subjects, and you have to strive to repeat your research question to various research subjects in a way to see if the responses you are getting correlate. Because sometimes you realize that they are telling you things when you get there, is the other research subjects repeating the same thing, or there are some difference. So you have to pay attention to these nuances so that you can get the right data from them. And also using multiple approach, in-depth interview, focus group discussion, and observation. Direct observation, paying attention to, even if you are using direct observation, you are observing the environment, you are observing the non-verbal clue from your research subject to see if actually there is some missing link. You have to be careful and you have to pay attention. How do you also navigate cultural and linguistic landscape, particularly you are coming from a different region? Although I'm in Nigeria, but actually I work more in the Niger Delta, I'm from the Yoruba ethnic group. So if I'm coming from a different ethnic group with a different language, do you understand the local language? If you don't, do you know how to navigate such barriers? Even interpreter may not give you all the right, the translation may not be completely correct, and in a way you may miss some very important facts. So how do you navigate this? This is also an important issue. And then you have to do the field work in this area, region, communities. So it's important that you get reliable research assistant, somebody who is educated and insider, and also security, your security on the field. When you use local insiders as research assistant, or you use people experienced in doing research in those communities, it helps. Because, for example, I recall I was in the Ogoni community, and then after we completed the field work for the day, as we were leaving, we wanted to get a cab on the roadside. And I was so tired, I said, let us just enter. Then my research assistant just drew my attention and said, walk away. So I had no choice than to follow him. Then I discovered that those people at those particular area I wanted to take are kidnappers. But because they have been doing research there for a long time, they already know all these local dynamics, nuances that can help you. So it's important to also use experienced research assistants, particularly those who know a lot, who are very knowledgeable about the research local, and that can help you. Then at the same time, you have some colleagues, senior colleagues who have done research there, who are in the university close to your research site, who can also give you some insight and who can help you to assess the field. They are a source of valuable information and connection to the communities. Then lastly, if you look at your theoretical perspective going to the field, you have to have an open mindset, because you don't say, this is the theory that shaped my research question, and I'm going to the field mainly to get this, so any other thing. Because for me, I've done research with an open mind that helped me to get even more insight into diverse issues or interrelated issue that form the basic for my further research. So even it may validate or invalidate your theoretical postulation. So you must pay attention. Don't close your mind. This is the kind of question and the kind of response I want, and I don't want any other response. So this is very, very important issues that you have to pay attention, and the ethical issues that I emphasize. How do you safeguard your security, your research subject, and yourself? How do you ensure this? So these are issues you have to consider when you are going to field, and put in place adequate measures to safeguard this. I've gone to field sites where I was told that it's unsafe, very dangerous. You should not go there. If you go there, well, I can guarantee you, many people have gone and died. How do you cope going to such research sites? What I do is that I probe and probe, looking for who have gone there, survived, and can help me too. And this has helped me, like the case of the Ogoni community I mentioned, to some local NGO, but at the same time, also the last one I did on women. When you go to communities where male rules, where men dominate and women has no opportunity to actually express their voices. How? And you are doing research on women. When you call attention to the community leader, you let them know this research is for women. I need to meet with the women for. At the end of the day, they may call 2, 3 women and men dominate. Then you ask, this work is for women. How come men dominate the conversation, the discussion? They say, well, we are expressing on their behalf. Anything we say is for them. You have to be careful. And what are we doing that? I will insist, I want to speak to the women separately. And what I discover on the field, what they say when the men are there is different from what the women will say when they are alone. They freely express their mind. So you have to pay attention. I discover local NGO, they don't pay attention to all these nuances. they call a town hall meeting, they say they are talking to all the people and they're representing women. At the end of the day, women are neglected. And I think I'm doing another paper talking about how local NGO downplay best practices in times of gender sensitivity. It is something I discovered on field. So it's very, very important. Pay attention to local dynamics, both verbal and non-verbal clue. Pay serious attention. Be careful who assists you in research subject. Be careful how you enter community, and emphasize that this work is purely for research purpose. It's not for money-making enterprise or something. You can buy drinks, you can, but the moment you monetize it, it's not easy, but you have to find a way to navigate the challenges. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Babatunde. So I want to go back now to Flourish. I'm sorry that Flourish, that we were cut off on the bad connection. Hopefully we'll have a better connection now. And maybe I'll ask all the panelists while Flourish is presenting, if you can just go through the chat and see if there's any specifically questions presented to you, okay? And then we'll open it up to questions again. And then I'll also ask the audience to put your questions into the chat and maybe try and ask questions that are broad that could also relate to, and I mean, it's very easy, I think, because everyone sort of touched upon a lot of the same themes. So, so let's have Flourish present, and then we'll open it up to some questions.
Elaine, can you hear me clearly now?
Yeah, we hear you great. Thank you.
Okay, I am having a bit of a network issue, but I'm not going to turn on the video. But some questions we are to address, but I will quickly, because of our time, address the issue of how new theoretical perspective shape data collection and interpretation. First, before going into that, I want to say, as a historian doing research in Nigeria, the primary resource area for reconstructing historical research is using the archives. And doing fieldworks through, earlier mentioned, the archives in Nigeria that historians majorly use are the National Archives in Ibadan, the one National Archives in Enugu, and the one in Kaduna. And going back to the question of how new theoretical perspective shape data collection. You see, methodology and theoretical concepts inform how we collect data because of our research areas and how you want to approach your research. It helps draw conclusions on results of empirical findings, especially the ones found respondents. It also helps methodological concepts, theoretical concept. This helps design the kind of questions you are going to ask your correspondents at the archives. It's also a guide to the selection of relevant data you most likely would want to come across, or you would come across in the archives or in the feed. And lastly, I want to say it also helps in interpreting this data. You know, the theoretical the methodology you are using in writing your work, or the kind of data you end up finding at the archives and on the feed. I think I would probably stop here and move on to the question and answer session.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. Because unfortunately, your connection is not as stable as we'd like it to be. So it's a little hard. It's still, unfortunately, it's still a little hard to hear you coherently. So, okay, I definitely want to open up to questions now, but I just maybe just a few kind of just a few comments just to tie things together. I mean, what really struck me about this panel, which I thought was fantastic, and I thought every single person here brought so much wealth of experience and knowledge, and each one comes from a different field. We had historians and anthropologists and archaeologists, and yet there was so much in common. And, you know, what really struck me about all of your papers and about all of your comments is that, you know, oftentimes as researchers, when we're about to embark on a research project, we're really busy with like our own sort of questions that are what we're trying to solve, and the hypotheses and the research sort of program, and we have things we want to be finding, and we're very sort of busy, and oftentimes research is really described as a very sort of lonely pursuit. Just you and your computer, you and the articles, you and your keyboard. But really what came across in this panel more than anything was how research is actually about relationships. Actually, how it's about relationships with communities. It's about relationships with research assistants. It's about relationships with archival staffs. It's about relationships with local elites, with governmental bodies, with other researchers. And that actually that oftentimes all of those different people, be them staff or elites or community members, they're often invested in your research almost as much as you are. They almost have a stake in your research almost as much as you do. And then they can almost become as passionate about it. I mean, I really appreciated the notion of the community giving free lodging because they really want to know about the archaeology in their own area. They want to know, you know, they're not passive subjects. They're actively engaged. And they want to know, and the community really wants to take part, you know, and sometimes they also want to exploit your research, just like you want to exploit your research. They want to make it useful. They want to mobilize it. They want to become empowered by it, and they want to benefit from it. Sometimes in material ways, sometimes in ways that create terrible roadblocks for us, or become sort of gatekeeping devices. So I just think that like that was a really fantastic sort of a reminder for all of us that research is really about people and the people that we work with and engage with in order to conduct our research. So I really want to thank all of you. And I want to open it up to questions now. We have some people that have written into the chat. So maybe let's just look at the chat here. We had some questions about researching and the issue of safety. I think that maybe everyone can talk about that, either from the level of gender, whether it's gender or not gender. And I guess it would be interesting to hear from everyone if you feel like there's anything specific about this issue in Nigerian context, or you feel like these are issues that researchers all over the world have to contend with. So we can maybe touch on the issue of safety, and there's very specific questions about the mechanics of archaeology. So let's see if you can relate to those questions. Yeah, I mean, maybe let's start with that. Let's try and everyone keep the let's just maybe talk about the issue of safety from different perspectives, safety and security in field work. So maybe we'll start with Deng, since Deng, you got cut off. We weren't able to completely finish your remarks. So maybe Deng, you want to start for us?
Sure. Of course, I can start. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I didn't finish my talk because I only talked about my archival research, but actually I also have a lot of interviews and interactive with people of the group I'm studying with. And actually I was kind of fortunate to get permission from their headquarters in London. And when I went to the headquarters, Nigerian headquarters, they saw the invitation and they kindly offer me free accommodation and food every day. So I was really surprised and honored to have such opportunity. And they gave me a lot of access to their internal archives, and gave me access to talk to different people, including male and female. And speaking of security, I think this is a concern that not only I myself have, but also the religious group that is hosting me, they have. So, because sometimes when I first arrived the first day, the guard of that compound, that headquarters, told me that do not go out by myself because it's a bit dangerous. And I think it also in some way speaks to my research, because I'm looking at space and construction, and also space construction and so I would think their idea of inside is safe and outside is dangerous speaks about how they build their religious community, and how this such compound and where the headquarters is located speaks about their protect their own community through space construction, through urban construction. But actually, finally, but I still go out sometimes to buy some stuff outside on the street, and yeah, but they also get used to it. But another thing, security thing, is that sometimes I need to go out to do interviews and to see some estates or some schools they have outside the compound, the headquarters, and they always assign a driver to me and say that you are our guest and your safety is our responsibility. So we will have a driver to go with you. And in some way, I think I feel very honored and I feel very protected, and I can't express my gratitude to these people and the religious group I'm staying with. And I also feel like security or safety has been part of my research, but it does not occupy a very important part, I would say.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe David, do you want to jump in?
I think in a way, we all talk about security and safety on the fieldwork. There are small and quick solutions that we can take about that, and I think all of us told about relying on a local network of people. And there are also, anyway, more structural problems, I think, that are related to all of us. I mean, depending on the people that we are interacting with, some of them can be also, sometimes, depending on the topic of your research, be criminalized by the state. And at that point, it is important for you that your position as a researcher is becoming recognized by the state in which you are doing your research, which is a problem everywhere. It's not just in Nigeria. Sometimes, I mean, if I can think to the situation, for example, in Italy, but that's the same everywhere, including Nigeria, a journalist can have more legitimation in doing his works because he is recognized as somebody that, even by the law, I mean, as somebody that is doing an interview because he's a journalist. So it must not be involved in a way in what the people are talking with him. Sometimes we do not get the same kind of recognition. We do even more work than journalists. We have to interact for longer period of times with people. We have to interact in formal and in informal situation, and yet we still don't get the same kind of recognition and protection by the state. And this can be a problem everywhere. It's not obviously it is also in Nigeria, because here sometimes even journalists get some kind of problems, but it's a problem everywhere in every kind of place. And this is something that require a collective effort from all of us. And I mean, we always complain about the loss of recognition that we have as a researcher. But I mean, when we are facing this kind of real issue, obviously this kind of problems becomes more prevalent, more prominent, and more clear to us than doing obviously research about, I don't know, people that are just happy and though they are happy. Obviously, if you are doing research about criminals or people that are criminalized by the state, this is becoming more important. So, okay, I think I can live with that. I mean, we had to do some things together, people, for us.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Lasisi?
Yes. So I can see about 4 questions there, but I would have to lump them together. One of which is about how do you know the precise location to carry out your excavation? And that's a very interesting question, because everybody wants to say, I want to go to this community to excavate. So how do I know where to excavate? And I think, of course, there are a lot of equipment to use, like ground penetrating ladder, a lot of equipment. But I feel that there is something you need, that even if you don't have all these advanced technology, you can still know a precise place to excavate using indigenous epistemologies. And I'm going to read this short quote by Professor Akinwumi Ogudinran in his book, The Yoruba, A New History. He said, given the proclivity of the indigenous Yoruba thought leaders to use Orisha myths to encode historical narratives and theorize the world, one must be willing to look for history in this genre of the Yoruba archives. And that's what I did. I used what I call the architecture of ritual movements. That is, the way the priest moved across the landscape helped me to identify a common space to excavate. And in excavating this common space using the architecture of ritual movement, I was able to discover the first evidence of a ceramic pavement in Ijebu Kingdom. And that is even changing our understanding of what we know about pavements today. So pavement as sundials, as a naturalistic art object. But how do I know to excavate that place? Because the ritual is saying excavate this place. Even though it's no longer on the surface, but the priest goes there. What are they doing there? It's because it's a functional space in the past, and we must not see space as we see it in the present day. We must see space as a remnant of a continued past in which only ritual or indigenous epistemologies and hermeneutics can enable us to identify. And the next question is, how can historians help in interpreting archaeological data? Of course, this is what we do every time I use the archive also. So for example, if I'm dealing with the 19th century settlement, I wanted to know about the history of this area, I go to the archive so I can understand the positional history in the archaeological perspective. So, and of course, historians, we don't just deal with documents also. What about the oral history? You see, so we collect oral history. It's part of the indigenous epistemological approach in which you can further have a better understanding of these artifacts. And then the next one is, do I have any specific objects in mind? Of course, everyone wants to find something extraordinary, but sometimes we always have, maybe if you are dealing with maybe post 16th century site, a site that has this evidence of Atlantic trade, of course, you will see objects within that time period. So you expect that, oh, I'm probably going to see a smoking pipe. I'm going to see, it depends on your research and the area. So sometimes we always have something specific. But interesting thing is that, I love this quote, say, archaeology has gone beyond what have you found. That you found nothing is something to shout about. Finding nothing means nothing. So, and it's something, right? And then the last question is talking about collecting big data. Yeah, sometimes you get to the field, you know what you wanted to do, you have your methods, you have your theoretical framework, and you get to the field, you realize that you're collecting this data and they are not answering your questions. It means your question, change your question. So in my work, the title of my dissertation earlier was Landscapes of Power, a Historical Archaeology of Ijebu Yoruba Palatial Urbanscape. But when I got to the site, I realized that there were astronomical practices in the past, using the sun to arrange the architecture, using the sun to have this ritual movement. And I changed the title of my work to Landscapes of Power, a Historical Archaeology and Cultural Astronomy of Ijebu Yoruba Palatial Urbanscape. And the title of my next book is Yoruba Archaeastronomy. It's leading to something entirely new. So don't be afraid to collect this data. All you have to do is, when you have all this big data, pick out the one that answers your question. And if none answers your question, then ask a new question with the data. I'm going to stop there now for others.
Thank you so much. Okay, Dr. Babatunde.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. First, I want to add something to what Dr. Lasisi said. It made me to also dawn on me on issue about unpredictability of the research sites. And when I'm talking of unpredictability, that you are going to the research site, you have some set of communities you want to assess, and then you have the mindset, these are the communities. When I'm talking about having plan A, B, C, you must also consider the fact that it might not be possible for you to access all those communities. So think about plan B. Are there some other communities with similar characteristics? And can they also give me the same data I want? So I found myself sometime I need to change communities, or you have to define it and then consider going back to the field later on. You have to, perhaps the condition, situation is volatile and so on. So you have to be careful. Then the question about assessing female research subjects. I think I tried to answer it. I also have experienced similar situation. It's not easy to assess those female research subjects because of the reality, the patriarchal setting that is prevalent in Nigeria. And for you to be able, you have to shine your eyes, as we say in Pidgin English, because you have to be careful, insist this is what I want, and how do you achieve it? When they bring male folk to the for focus group discussion, and I know I need to interview women, I let them know from the onset. And if at the end of the day you cannot achieve, interviewing women separately, you leave the place, then you go around communities, try to find out where the house is resident of the women leader. Who are the women in this community? So many times I meet them also at home. You insist that this is what you want and you go about achieving it. So I recall there was a time I wanted to interview the women leader. I met with the youth leaders, and so they said the women leader is not around. She has traveled something. I said, okay. After I finished with them, I walk around and I asked, where is the house of your women leader? I got there to find out she's around. So you do not rely on all what you have told. You have to find out if what you have heard or you've been told is true or not, so that you'll be able to navigate some of the realities on the field. Then issue of how to analyze data derived from ongoing conflict. You have a time frame, depends on what is the kind of research method you are using. If you are using qualitative, you want to do content analysis of this, you want to do based on things, but you have a time frame. Although this conflict is ongoing, but at this time, there is a ceasefire. Okay, this is the period I'm doing the research. This is the reality at this particular period. And you use it to project what might happen if this and this are not addressed. So this will help you to be able to. So you have time frame, you look at it, depends on your field. As peace scholars, we have to look at the historical context. We look at the dynamics over time and what is going on now, what have been addressed, what have not been addressed, and what may be the likely situation. So this will also help you. And I think somebody also asked a question about, I think the last question, about assessing the field and challenges there or something, having plan A, B, C. Yeah, that's it. You have to consider the unpredictability of your research site. And it is highly important. You have plan A, B, C. And even when you have contact, you have multiple contacts. You don't rely on one contact. Even when I'm going to the field, they introduce me to maybe some colleagues. Don't believe that all those colleagues will help you. I don't believe that those colleagues follow ethical, they are sensitive to ethical issues. You may find out this is not so. And when they see you the way, they may be careful telling you all these things because they know what they are doing may be good or not. So you have to be careful. And you have to see, if I have this local contact, let me try and get another local. If this one cannot help me to do it the right way, can I get another? And when you are on the research side, try to make friends. Also open possibilities of meeting other contacts within those communities at the city and so on. I go to interview people in the cities, and from them I get another contact. I've done that and I've been able to, and it helps more than those previous contacts I got before coming to the field. So you have to have an open mindset and you have to keep your eye open. Look for chances, opportunity that can help you to attain your goal, and that it can help you to ensure you adhere to ethical issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And Flourish, we have 3 more minutes, so maybe just you want to give your concluding remarks?
Okay, Lynn, I want to quickly address the question one of the participants asked, the question of how to interpret archival documents. First, I want such participants to remember that when doing archival research, you have to know, remember the who and why a particular document is in the archives and what it is speaking about. When I mean the who, you will have to understand, are they in a personal or official role? Are these documents speaking in a personal or official role? And why are they writing these documents? You know, when you ask yourself these questions, why are they writing these documents? You understand, you know how to interpret your findings at the archives. You also, you would want to ask questions like, how accurate is the views of the subject being discussed in the documents? With this, you'll be able to analyze thoroughly what is needed to analyze your documents while writing your research. So basically, it's just remember the who and why a particular document is being addressed in the archives.
Okay, thank you so much. I mean, I feel like we need a whole conference on this topic and not just a panel. I feel that we just scratched the surface of all of the really amazing complexities and issues and questions. And I really want to say thank you so much to the panelists, because I feel like each one of you brought, I think more than anything, I think all of you reminded us about the passion of research, and how research really is something that we all care deeply about, and how we bring our own sort of passion and caring to it. And I think that came across in everyone's presentation. So more than anything, I think that's just the most inspirational thing. And I think there's lots of students in the audience that really picked up on that. And I think it's, you know, it doesn't often happen that we get a panelist of people that bring so much life into their presentation. So I really want to thank you all for all the insights. And I think there needs much more than one session on this issue. So we just scratched the topics, just scratched the surface, but I really want to thank also all the participants and all the audience for amazing questions as well.
Thank you.
So.
Thank you.
Sir.
Thank you all for coming.